Welcome back, Keepers of the Flame. Okay, so the feminine masculine thing is hitting really hard right now, especially because we just had a masculine gun down a feminine in the street. I don't know. How long do we need to scream into the void after this one? Because I'm sick and tired of seeing this play out. Sorry, just getting some downloads. I don't know if I'm supposed to share, if I'm not supposed to share. Let me give it a second. Okay, so what's probably going to happen at the end of this, because this is the breaking of a cycle. We just ended a cycle. This was a 9-year and now it's a 1 year. Anyway. How do I put... Okay. Okay. Sorry, give me a second. Like, I have a whole list of things because I tried to make a video and I'm like, I feel like I'm rambling. I feel like I need to have a list. So I made a list. They're like, but we're going to talk about this. Okay. So what's happening right now, let me give you a little bit of background before we jump into... Okay, so what's happening is GEO Corps and Civil Corps or Corps Civil, the two corporations that are building the concentration camps for all the supposed illegals. Even though anyway. So this is why they're not just taking illegals, because they're not deporting them. So they're just putting them in work camps, concentration camps, okay? So that's what's happening with that whole thing, okay? And they're getting a lot of taxpayer dollars to do this, to build the company, or build the structure, everything, and then to house the people. They are getting billions of dollars to do this, of taxpayer money. And if that doesn't rip the mask off the government for you, and you can't see that the whole thing is screwed, you're in a lot of fucking trouble and you're going to drag us down. Okay? So step out of the way of that karma. Stop thinking there's a two-party system. There never has been and there never will be, under any circumstances. It's all been one big con game. Put the dead horse down. We can't afford to lug it forward, okay? It's literally now obviously killing people. Now, if you didn't know it was killing people before, you haven't been paying attention to global news, but topic for another time. So, when we have this structure being built and these people being housed in the whatchamacallits, because of the way things that have played out in the history, not only are the U.S. citizens 2/3 the majority over this crap, I would venture to say it's more, because even though a lot of, I think 24% of Americans were like, yeah, it's fine that somebody just got gunned down in the streets for parking sideways. And that gave us the temperature check, right? We know where the masculine is as far as that goes, okay? And they are severely in trouble, and we'll get there. Just give me a second. I gotta give you a backdrop. So these things are being built and filled, and they need to arrest 30,000 people a day in order to get them filled. Not that there's a huge amount of pressure, because the taxpayers are paying for the empty beds as well. Yeah. You are paying for the Nazi army, and you're paying for the prisoners to be held in camps. You're paying for it. If you can't, that's huge. That needs to come all the way in, and you need to sit with that and go, that's not what I want to be doing with my hard-earned money. With my slave labor. That's what it is. You're not working to build a life. You're working to demolish yours. How many people you know retire and then just drop dead? Okay, because their system doesn't know how to calibrate itself any longer. That's right. Abuse yourself to the grave. That's the system. Okay? So stop kidding yourself into thinking it's anything else. This whole Southern bullshit. You not gonna work real hard for shit. Okay, the massa days are over. Sit down and shut the fuck up. We are humans, not some sort of machine. That needs to die. That whole narrative needs to be left behind in the dust. All of it. Okay, so we just got it a 9-year. We're about to be in about to be in a 1 year in February. Okay, so here's how the system is working. So you're paying for that. You're paying for everybody to be tortured and killed in the street right now. You're paying for that. You. Stop getting it twisted. Stop excusing yourself. There's blood on everybody's hands. Period. The end. Okay, it sucks. I'm well aware of that. But here's what they're telling me. If we get our energy right, if we do this energetically correctly, which we all could do this. We don't need to go out in the streets and protest. It's not going to help. So we keep our fingers on the pulse. This is where the community of spiritual people gets it so fucking wrong. I'm just going to ignore it. If I ignore it, it'll go away. Excuse me. This is a gaping wound on humanity, and you want to just not look at it. I don't think that's a very good decision. You need to look at it if you're going to heal it. Okay, so here's what we do. We know the situation. We get educated about the situation. We get right in our system about the situation. We decide what our convictions are about the situation. Now, if you are one of those people that believes that, you probably would have never found your way here. And if you did, so the narrative is what it is. We know what we know, blah, 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 blah. These people are being taken away to concentration camps, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. We have to keep our pulse on it. We have to keep a pulse on it. If we don't keep a pulse on it, we are not going to swing in the opposite direction correctly. We are going to go blindly into whatever the hell it is without knowing exactly what to avoid. And this is how they kept us perpetuating in the future, is if we can't see it, we can't pinpoint it, we're taking the same energetic pattern that they're subconsciously attaching to us through programming and whatever the fuck else, because there's some Tweedledum out there that's like, well, you should have just listened. If you would have listened, that would have happened. Okay. Traffic violations, and I can't even call it disobedience, not obeying at this point, because she was screamed at to fucking leave several and she was getting bombarded with several different orders. And it's like, she's like, I'm leaving because these people are complete nut jobs. And she knew that. We all know that. If you don't know that, if you do not know that these are the worst human beings to probably walked since the 30s, again, I'll keep doing it. So we have that running how do you say that? So when that's running, new things keep popping up. We could come to new convictions, new conclusions, new blah, 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 blah. What we have to make sure is that the red pill community doesn't stick one in you, okay? That's the crucial thing. And at this point, if you're susceptible to the red pill community, you're already fucked. You're already fucked. Sorry, not sorry. It's too late. So when we're moving forward, when we know all the facts, we have all the details and whatever else, everything gets clear in the system. Everything gets clear here, and clear in the sacral gut area, in the pelvic area. And that's crucial. We have to take the whole self with us when we are creating new things. Okay, creativity stems from the sacral chakra. Okay, there's a little there's a little bone. I'm trying to make my fingers in the right shape of it, but it's about like a triangle. Okay, and that is a storage house for all ancient memories in our bloodline, and I think humanity's, depending on who you source, but it is the ancient memories, the ancient downloads. I mean, it's fucking magical portal, which is why really wants to get in there. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, that's the reason why they want access, is because it's powerhouse. Okay, and they're parasites most of the time, unless they're doing it respectfully and in a ritualistic way. It's a parasitic entity entering and collecting what it needs to, and then this is why they prefer married men, because they have a source. This is coming, this is not in my notes, this is coming from Ancient, just tapped in. So that's why they want to host. Ooh, okay, let me take a swig. Give me a second. And I gotta process this. So we're going to start to see through this, and it's going to come in waves. Sorry, that was tough. Ooh, okay. So usually I try to get those like in the morning and then process them and then bring them to you in a different way. That's making me uncomfortable. Okay. Okay. So back before matriarchy, there was a thing called androgyny, and that just means that there was no mating required to create new life. You could just, this is where the virgin birth idea comes from. Take a moment to digest. That's where the virgin birth comes from, is androgyny. You don't need at a point in humanity, we never needed a phallic symbol to impregnate. We never needed it. It wasn't required. This is really difficult, and I had to go through this, so I understand this trepidation that you might be feeling right now. But the Y chromosome, okay, burn together. Okay, so the Y chromosome is very much almost extinct in the male body. And that's the only, there's two X's in the women, and there's an X and a Y in the man. Okay, And it's like if you were to pluck it out, put it in a petri dish, and give it to a white coat, they couldn't tell you what it was. That's how shriveled it is. Okay, so this is a biological breakdown, and we will have to either return to something else or become something else entirely. Again, women's response to how this is happening in the male energetic field is legitimate. It's not, and that the way you can tell that it's not female's fault is how there's females out there that are doing a lot of damage too, and they will be shown no mercy for that in some way, shape, or form. But the excuse for it is that it's the feminine's fault, that we are to blame for the violence they choose to commit. Okay, so let me explain to you, or let me ask you. You know what? Let me ask you. I don't want to be finished explaining because this is fucked. Okay, so how do we create an army versus how do we make something go extinct? Write it down. You can play with that later. Okay, just write how do we create an army versus how do we make something go extinct? Okay, so I'm going to go off the abuse wheel. Okay, something that's pretty much all pervasive throughout society on a global scale. Okay, it's all pervasive. This is why they took the cluster B, I think it was, out of the DSM, because it's now a basis for human existence. And I don't think, I can't recall specifically, so don't really quote me on this, but I don't think psychopathy is in there either. I don't think the definition for psychopath is in there, and I don't think there's any diagnostics for getting to that conclusion in the DSM. Don't quote me, okay? Don't quote me. I can't even tell you if the dark triad is still in there. It might be, but that's a little bit different than a psychopath. So don't quote me. Anyway, so the cluster Bs have been removed from the, oh my God, what do you call it? DSM-5, DSM-6, 7? Shit, fuck it. That whole thing's going in the trash anyway, because, oh my God, if you read that, I'm pretty sure a bot wrote it. Anyway, so it's like, let's test this new shit and drive everybody crazy who reads this. Boy, if you don't have a fucking mental illness before, you're gonna have one after. Fuck. I am not. Don't. Ugh. So, it's not just redundancy. It's like they were like copy paste everything and then switch up a few words. So yes I did. I tried reading it front to back and then I was like, I'm gonna skip this section because I think it's bullshit. Anyway, let's get to the system of abuse, the wheel of abuse, something we can track in our own freaking life, okay? So you get the financial abuse, slave labor. If your job isn't paying you enough to pay for your living quarters, reasonable, average amount of living, not some, high rise, whatever, food, utilities, Heating, I think, is that separate in some places. Food, utilities, heating, travel, car expenses, gas, insurance, blah, 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 blah. You should be allowed to have vacation and sick time, absolutely paid. Regular raises or bonuses, healthcare benefits, healthcare benefits, childcare. I was like, that was just, I don't know why I associate those two things together. Childcare. And some sort of, pension, savings, retirement, all those things, okay? If your job isn't giving you those, you are under a slave labor. I said what I fucking said. If those 10 basic things are not covered for human existence, you are working in slave labor. Go ahead, go get a tissue. So, that's financial abuse, straight out the gate. And that's pretty much the majority of the people on the planet. Unless you're a CEO, which is also financial abuse because that's just parasiting everything. Okay? So, we got a parasite problem. Nudge, nudge. Wink, wink. Look into it. So, financial abuse is, and this does not go in order. There's no order to this. They pick and choose where your weaknesses are, and then they hone in on those. Okay? Then you've got the mental abuse, where they're, hey babies, they are making you doubt yourself, or making you second guess. Gaslighting is mental abuse. Saying you're not thinking straight, you didn't experience that. What's wrong with you? When somebody asks you that, automatic abuser. I don't give a fuck who it is. When somebody asks you, two things. What's wrong with you, or who hurt you? And you're not in a therapeutic setting. Well, okay, what's wrong with you is abuser, no matter what. But who hurt you is also abuse. It's just guised under, it looks like they can, but really all they want to know, or all they're asking is, all they're trying to point at is how fucked they think you are. Okay. So those two things, immediate abuse. Okay. So I think that covers the two common things. So, and then you get emotional abuse. You're being too sensitive. You're too over emotional. You're being dramatic. And then they will pinpoint those things that they know you're going to be over dramatic or sensitive about, and they will hone in on them, and they will poke, and then be like, why do we have to keep going through this? I don't get it. Or they'll just ignore. Some men just pin, and then they walk away. They're like, I'm going to really hurt your feelings, and then leave you alone. And then abandonment. That's also abuse, abandonment. Now that's not like, oh, she ghosted me. Yeah, well, things weren't working out. So you either take that as protection from the person that obviously didn't care, or you have some serious self-assessment to do. Either way, I would self-reflect. Either way. So when you have a narrative that's shoved in your face that somehow emotions are wrong when you possess them, but the other person can be a complete nut job and punching holes in the wall, or being all encompassing a rage ball of freaking ignorance, and they're fine because they're allowed to be. That's emotional abuse. Okay? Let's see what else. Psychological abuse. I've seen actual therapists use this on their clients, and it's pretty fucked up. Well, and the other thing too is like sometimes psychologists give out advice, and it's actually going to make the situation worse, especially for the woman. I've dealt with some instances where the therapist told the woman to say to her abusive, well-known, put in jail abusive partner, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and she got her face pounded in. Okay. Psychological abuse. Like, to the fucking T. That's why I'm saying it's like 2/3 of all schmoocides have seen a healthcare professional in the last week of their lives. Everything is going to be left back there, okay? Then you've got, and that's not to say all psychologists are just shit. That's not what I'm saying. The system that they were given to operate within does not have a very safe foundation to stand on. So when your authority figure doesn't have a safe foundation to stand on, your quality of care is going to have to be kind of dialed back and redone by that specific caregiver, psychologist, whatever, psychiatrist. Okay, they do have to go back and reassess and find different modalities of moving forward. And a lot of them who are aware, now that might not be a lot of them, but the ones that are aware that the system is not a sturdy foundation, they will go back and reassess. Okay, so you've got the psychological abuse. Then you've got the social abuse, isolating you from friends and family, embarrassing you in front of people. This is going to have to be a 2 fucking parter. And then you've got, and this happens a lot. You see it in men's circles quite a bit, where they will humiliate the shit out of you for simply being human or being too sensitive, or you have to go with the boys crowd or whatever. And usually, unfortunately, in this society, we pick the biggest, baddest, worthless pile of shit to run the whole fucking clan. Okay? I mean, the worstest pile of shit to run the whole fucking clan, and everybody's got to bow down and do the authority thing. Now, hierarchy is also a form of abuse. No, that's not in the DSM, and it's not on my cycle wheel. I don't give a fuck. It gets people killed. It's a form of abuse. If someone is coming to you and telling you that they know more about your system than you do, and you can't have a conversation where your perspective is brought into view and reasonably assessed, so you have access to your own healing rather than having to put it in somebody else's hands. The agency, the autonomy is removed from the person. That's a form of abuse, because that's what happens to rape victims. When you take somebody's agency, autonomy away from them, that is abuse. Anything that involves that is abuse. Okay? I should have wrote this down. I was like, I'll just block it. Social, financial, emotional, mental, psychological, autonomy, hierarchy, kind of goes in the same vein. I feel like there's a few more. You remember, put them down in the comments. But it's a whole wheel. And then you get into the sexual and the physical. That's what I was like, I'm going to mention those last. Then you get into the things like rape and beatings and all that other stuff. Okay. And it never starts with the rape or the beatings, because the person as a whole has to, excuse me, be broken down. Like, you can't just walk up to a person and smack them across the face and be like, hey, you want to go out? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they know that that's not how they can operate, right? Even if it's from a subconscious whatever, the result is still the same. The results are still there. The proof is in the pudding. They know what they're doing because they're doing it methodically. And rather than just saying, I'm not meant to be in relationships because that's how I behave in relationships, they're like, well, society says I want to look good in front of people. Okay? Okay? So when we have this wheel running, those things that I mentioned prior to the physical and sexual abuse, those are the ones you need to be focused on right off the bat. And at this point in the game, I would not recommend getting involved. Just my humble opinion. I can't make that decision for you, but from what I've witnessed and what I've researched right now, okay? Because when we hold back from that, our bodies have more of a chance to develop the androgyny. That's going to piss a lot of people off. It's going to piss a lot of people. So I was not expecting that today. I knew that's where we came from, and I knew that eventually, maybe sometime in the future, we were going to get there, but like, we're really getting there. And Pluto being an Aquarius and the age of Aquarius, it's not just warp speed anymore. We are hopping dimensions like a little bunny rabbit right now. It's the only way I could put it. Okay, so next video is going to be about how this plays out in our reality and how we need to start taking our energy away from these things, which will shift us out of this. Everybody's like, oh, the shifts are happening, the shit. No, you have to do some stuff. Okay? Yeah, the information will come in. You need to take time to let that integrate. But then you have to do some work. Then you have to pull your resources from one place and put it in exactly where you want it. Because if your crap is feeding the stuff that's literally the F on fire right now, well, not literally, but metaphorically, okay, it's all crumbling. You need to pull all your resources and put it in places you prefer the future to be. I cannot stress this enough, and I will see you in the next one. I love you. Keep your flame.